The Canadians are only the latest to offer advice to us. At least they have reason to. But the French, the Belgians, this week the country's piling on about our spending piling on that is now over the top. But Congressman James Lankford says they all make a point. The Oklahoma Republican says we got to get our spending under control, and we do not. And here we go again, right, Congressman?
Is exactly right. Here we go again. But good to get the Canadians to be able to step in on us as well.
You know, I'm wondering when they're starting to offer financial advice, and like I said, there used to be a basket case. There is some wisdom to what Harper was saying, that he put his government in a position of not spending more than they were taking in. It's a unique concept, but it's one that your party isn't getting, and it's one that the Democrats aren't getting. And I guess my fear is, no offense to you, that for the next year, we're not going to make much progress.
Well, we have to make some progress on it. We're at $15 trillion in debt and climbing.
But you're not making progress.
Well, that's what we got to continue to push on. For instance, this deal we're talking about with the unemployment insurance and such, we're pushing in to get a chance to get a pay for it. 8 of the 9 last unemployment insurance extensions had no pay fors, had no anything. The only one that did have a pay for was for a few weeks. And so we're starting to set a new precedent to say we can't just continue to pile this stuff on. And I know we're getting pushback saying that we're inhumane for wanting to get a chance to actually pay for things. But it reaches a point where you say, we're basically trying to say to people, times are tough. I'll make it tougher on the next generation to make it easier on us. And we got to stop doing that.
Do you hold the same pay-for-it standard to the payroll tax cut extension?
Well, the payroll tax extension really is Social Security tax. I mean, the funny part, I had a conversation with someone earlier today. It used to be that Congress got bashed on all the time for taking money out of the Social Security Trust Fund. Now they're trying to take money out of the Social Security Trust Fund before it ever gets to the trust fund and siphon it off. And so what we really need on that is to get some real reforms on Social Security and what's happening there. If we can stabilize that program, maybe that tax rate doesn't have to be so high, but we got to be able to stabilize it.
All right, but you do hold that to a different standard, paying for it than you, or at least many in your party, did to extending the Bush tax cuts, because then the argument, they didn't have to be paid for it because they were revenue creators or whatever the argument was at the time, which might have been fine. Seems like a different standard for this payroll tax cut.
Well, we also lose track of the fact you talk about in 2001, CBO was also scoring a $5 trillion surplus at that time. And so part of what happened during that time was CBO made a mistake on it. And so that's a part of it. Obviously, the tax cuts weren't paid for, but there were also lots of other issues in that. So it's nice to look back in hindsight now, 10 years later.
I'm looking now.
But when you look
I'm
at
just looking now. I'm looking now. I'm looking now whether we extend the payroll tax cut or not. If we attach paying for it now as the new, the new holy grail. And we didn't with extending the Bush tax cuts, which might have been fine. Can you see why Americans are looking at that and say, hey, that don't smell right?
I can. Two different issues on it, though. One is the marginal tax rates, the actual income tax. The other one is the payroll tax. It's really Social Security and Medicare. Those are supposed to be a benefit contribution towards some future benefit on it. Towards that, obviously, if you're cutting that, then you're taking that money directly out of that, and you're siphoning off from the general fund. They're two different taxes in the way that they're structured on it. So can I make one statement about the Canadians as well? Sure. And that's this Keystone Pipeline. You talk about the way we're handling regulations. Who would have ever thought in Canada we'd look at their regulatory environment and say it's so much better than ours? It took them a year to be able to permit the Keystone Pipeline, 3 years and counting for us. And now with healthcare issues, now we're taking Canadian healthcare and bringing it down. When I have hospitals in Oklahoma City that receive Canadians as tourists, because they don't want to wait in line so long for Canadian health care. They're coming to Oklahoma City to be able to get health care. So it's a strange dynamic happening as everything turns on its head.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much.